Hello, I'm Candela and I'm going to present my project. This project presents a learning experience for 6th grade primary students where technology, creativity and collaboration are combined through a historical mystery solved by the students using different digital tools. Hope you like it. As I said, the project is designed for 6th grade primary education students, aged between 11 and 12 years old. It is aligned with the LOMLOE curriculum and the Murcia Regional Decree 209/2022, integrating several key competencies through a creative and interdisciplinary approach. This project promotes digital competence by encouraging students to use different technological tools to design, communicate, and create digital content. It also develops linguistic communication competence through activities such as grading scripts, creating dialogues, and presenting the case to the class. In addition, students strengthen their personal, social, and learning-to-learn competence by working cooperatively in groups, taking different roles, and solving problems together. Citizenship competence is fostered through the exploration of history, different cultures, and historical contexts, while encouraging critical thinking about the past. This project enhances cultural awareness and expression competence by involving students in the design of comics, stop-motion scenes, and historical narratives. Finally, STEAM competence is also included through the use of digital tools, technologies, and interactive solutions. The student profile corresponds to a mixed ability class in a public school with a diverse levels of learning, interest, and digital experience. The students are generally curious, creative, and motivated, which makes them suitable for collaborative and technology-based learning experience. Now I use Copilot to generate a proposal for my project, and then I'm going to critically analyze this response. The AI generates a project called Designing Our Future Eco-City. Its structure is a multi-week project sequence. It uses digital technologies like AR, stop motion, and robotics, and is oriented to a final explanation. Its focus in the students and based in activities, prioritize participation, creativity, and production over traditional activities. This proposal assumes that technology improves automatically the learning, that the students learn better with the practice and collaboration with a minimum instruction, that all students have access to technology and know how to use it, and that the tools are easy to introduce in a classroom of primary. I think that Copilot with this proposal means adapting it clearly to the LOMLOE and the Royal Decree. It assumes the access to technologies like AR, devices, or robots. With the week plan, doesn't consider technical failures, time problems, or teacher training needs. Also, no clear adaptation to special needs students, and too many technologies with no structured rubric. I will adapt the proposal by continuing the Eco-City theme, project-based structure, use of creativity and technology, and the final explanation. However, I will reduce technologies to avoid overload, follow LOMLOE competencies and assessment criteria, and add some instruction before each task. I will also include a clear rubric and differentiation strategies for diverse learners. The project will be realistic with my school resources. Okay, first I will explain the steps students will follow to complete the assignment. First step is the introduction. As the teacher, I will introduce the project Detectives of the Past. The students will be divided in groups of 5, and each group will receive a topic relating to a historical period on which to base their activity. The task involves creating clues and a mystery using the chosen technologies, and then, at the end of the activity, they will present to the whole class the result of the activity, and their classmates should resolve the mystery. The second phase is the research phase. In this step, each group researches their historical period using books, videos, websites, or articles that I have indicated or supervised. With that material, they should research about historical figures, monuments, clothing, traditions, maps, or historical events to include in their task. The third step is planning. These steps help the pupils to organize the information and the group, deciding who the suspects are, which clues to include, and how to solve the mystery. Each student has a role in the activity: researcher, writer, designer, teach manager, and presenter. The fourth step is to do a comic activity. In these steps, students should create an interactive comic about the beginning of the mystery and setting out the mystery to be solved. The fifth step is stop motion. Here, the students will represent historical events from the period they have been assigned or represent the moment when they discover an important object or clue in the mystery. The sixth is generally. In this step, they create the presentation with the final clue using the tool of generally. The seventh step is final exhibition, in which each group will have created a final presentation to show their classmates. They will have to solve the case by reading the comic, watching the stop motion video, and using the generally presentation. The eighth step is reflection. At the end of the project, students will make a self-reflection and group reflection about what they have learned, how technology help, how they work in group, and what they would improve. First, using Pixton, the students design the characters such as the royal messenger or the farmer. They choose their costumes to suit the period they are working on, and they also design period-appropriate backdrops, dialogue, and speech bubbles. The students create with the tool different scenes of the story and organize the sequence of the story to introduce mystery and suspects. During the editing process, students revise the text, modify scenes, improve visual details, and reorganize panels to make the story clearer and more engaging. Now I'm going to explain how students should use stop motion. Students with the stop motion app create an animation with the figures of their historical period and they design it in base of what they research about. They can use paper figures, cardboards, or recycled materials, what they want. Using the app with the teacher indications, they take photographs frame by frame while moving characters. During the editing process, students have used the sequence of images, add titles, sound effects, or narration, and improve the timing of their scenes to make the story more understandable. Finally, I'm going to explain how to do Genially game. In this part, students use Genially tool to create an interactive mystery game related with the comic and stop-motion story, in this case, the story on Royal Letter. They design a game that should have the response of the mystery for their classmates to resolve. In the case of the French Revolution project, it includes images, buttons, and interactive elements to make the activity more engaging and game-based. During the creating process, they decide which historical information is important, how to organize the clues, and how to guide players through the investigation. This is the cover of the project presentation that will be exposed to the rest of the class. It looks like a detective board. Visually, it has elements of the historical period and the mystery, the two suspects, the king, and the real letter, a little introduction to the case. Secondly, we have the comic activity. The mystery starts with the interactive comic. This contextualizes the history, has important clues for the next activities like the slogan of the third stage, and highlights the importance of the letter. The link goes to the interactive comic page. This third part of the presentation is watching the stop-motion animation, a short video where the letter's disappearance is discovered and two suspects appear, the royal messenger and the farmer. The students use important elements to develop it and continue with the comic characters. Finally, with the Genially game, the case comes to an end. First, students should answer 3 questions related to the topic to get a code. These questions are orientated with the topic, like the third state, the slogan of the revolution, and the king and the queen of France when the revolution took place. Then this code is formed by numbers that you must discover with the figures you obtain in each correct questions. If you get the code, you will discover that the thief was the farmer of the third state. Students play an active role during the project because they not only receive information, they also investigate, design, and create digital content together. First, the pupils work in groups as historical detectives. They search information about a historical period and analyze this information to create the mystery and the clues and the history for classmates to resolve. They select important data. organize ideas, and make decisions together. Then they create an interactive comic with the Piston tool. With this tool, they create dialogues, characters, and build a story. All of this in relation with the topic, obviously. Also, they produce a stop-motion animation in which they create characters and scenes with the historical figures, take photographs frame by frame, and edit the final video. Also, with the Genially game, they create clues for the history and create hidden messages or historical maps that classmates can explore in the final presentation. During work in the project, students work together, solve problems, make creative decisions, and communicate their ideas. Also, each student has a specific role in the group: researcher, writer, designer, test manager, and presenter. This helps to organize and work better. Finally, students present their projects during the final exhibition class and explain the historical content. Now I'm going to explain the added value of the digital tools included. First, Pixton. Students use this tool to create the interactive comic for introducing the mystery. It proves creativity and storytelling, help students to represent historical events visually, and make students active creators. With the stop-motion studio tool, students produce with the app a stop-motion video showing the depth of the royal letter and the suspects. It promotes teamwork and problem-solving, develop planning, and encourages active participation. With the Genially tool, the students design a mystery presentation and interactive game with clues, suspects, and evidence. With this, the classmates will resolve the case. This increases motivation with gamification, critical thinking, and students interact with information. The project will be assessed through continuous observation, group work, participation, and the final presentation of the mystery. Both the creative process and the final digital artifacts will be evaluated. Students will also complete a short self-reflection about teamwork, creativity, and use of technology. It will be assessed from 1 to 4 and from needs improvement to excellent. Also, with the next rubric, I will put the final mark. Now I'm going to assess the chosen apps and tools for the project, and I'm going to do it following the rubric for e-learning tools evaluation. First, I'm going to assess Pixton. About its privacy and data concerns, students may need accounts or teachers' invitations. The personal data like usernames or emails can be collected, and some content may be stored on external servers. And how these concerns are addressed are using teacher-controlled classroom accounts, the parents should be informed before using the tools, and activities are supervised by me, the teacher. Next, I'm going to assess the app of Stop Motion Studio. About its privacy and data concerns, the videos may include students' voices or images. Also, mobile tablet permissions like camera and microphone are needed, but how these concerns are addressed? Well, students are not required to show their faces. They use fictional characters and historical figures instead. Also, teacher controls recording and sharing permissions, and videos are stored only in the school devices and platforms. And finally, I'm going to evaluate Genially. About its privacy and data concerns, it requires account creation and data stored on external platforms. But how these concerns are addressed, the teacher, creates and manages accounts. The projects remain private or accessible only through classroom links. Students do not share personal data, and families are informed about digital safety and educational purposes. One important tension in this project is the balance between innovation and accessibility. The project includes creative digital technologies such as Pixton, Genially, and Stop Motion Studio to make learning interactive, motivating, and creative. However, using a lot of technologies can sometimes be difficult for primary students with different digital skills or learning needs. And to use these tools, you need that all students of your class has access to internet and technological device, and sometimes it's not like this. Also, the project uses appropriate tools for primary students with intuitive steps, and they work collaboratively in groups, where each member has a specific role according to their abilities. But sometimes, tools like Piston request you to pay to continue using it. In addition, the teacher guides the activities step by step and combines technologies with creative tasks. In this way, technology supports inclusion and participation, instead of being a complication in the learning process of students. To involve families in the project, I designed a communication email addressed to parents and families. In this message, I explained the objectives of the project, Detectives of the Past, and how students will learn history through active and collaborative activities using digital tools such as Pictos, Stop Motion Studio, and Genially. The email also justifies the educational use of technology, explaining that students are not passive consumers of information, but are active creators who develop creativity, teamwork, communication, and critical thinking. In addition, I address possible family concerns about technology use, privacy, and screen time by explaining that our activities are supervised, appropriate for their age, and for educational purpose. Finally, the communication encourages respectful and open dialogue with families, allowing them to ask me questions or share suggestions about the project. The ACAD model is used to design and analyze learning activities focused on the student. In this project, it is applied to organize the pedagogical design, the learning tools, and the way students interact and collaborate, and we can see in this image is organized. In a primary classroom, I will use TPAC to design a specific lesson, for example, of natural science. Instead of using a textbook, I will combine content, pedagogical, and technological knowledge. During my studies, I could use my PLA to organize my resources such as Canva for presentation, Drive for notes, and YouTube for explanations or inspiring myself. As a future teacher, I will use gamification for improving a task or project with my students. One example is the Genially game of my detective project. This increases motivation and participation, also make for more dynamic lessons. In a primary classroom, I will use augmented reality to teach, for example, solar system. Students could point a tablet at a worksheet and see 3D planets appear on the screen with movement and information. This is an interesting way of motivating students to learn the contents and explore technology. The first area I'm going to explain is professional engagement. This area focuses on how teachers use digital technologies to communicate, collaborate, and improve their professional development. It includes working with colleagues, reflecting on teaching practices, and continuously developing digital competencies through online tools and resources. I think that the own task of DigiCompedu is related with personal engagement and develops these parts because we use digital tools to collaborate, communicate, and reflect on the teaching practices. For example, professional collaboration because we work together in groups and share ideas digitally. Also, the reflective practice because we analyze how AI affects teachers and education, and the continuous professional development because we use online resources and frameworks to improve our digital competence as future teachers preparing this task. The second area I choose is the one of digital resources because this area focuses on selecting, creating, and managing digital educational resources effectively and responsibly. Teachers must choose appropriate materials, adapt or create content, and use digital resources ethically to support teaching and learning. I think that one task related is the task 2 of the committee because we create and adaptate digital educational content using a digital tool. Through this activity, I learned how to select appropriate resources, design visual educational materials, and create content adapted to learning objectives and students' needs. The third area I consider more relevant is teaching and learning one. This area focuses on using digital technologies in teaching to improve learning. It includes planning lessons with digital tools, supporting students, promoting collaboration, and helping learners become more autonomous and active in their learning. I think that the Code Rocky task is so related with this area because it involves using a digital tool to support learning through active participation and interaction, like this programming. With this activity, we plan and implement a technological resource in a lesson and guide students while they program and solve tasks. This promotes collaborative work.
What grade do you think you earned?
I think the grade I earned is an 8.75 out of 10 following the assignment criteria because I believe my video is original, the video style has a lot of media, I did a good reflection, but maybe the problem will be the language because sometimes I have problem in expression. I have also demonstrated that I understand the key theoretical concepts and that I have been able to connect theory with practical classroom applications.
Most challenging role this course?
I think that the blog, for example, was challenging because every week we must update on the tasks of every week, and sometimes it was a little stressful, but my team and I, we managed. Personally, it was also difficult for me to go out and present, but having the role of a star, it helps me overcome my difficulties. At first, it was also difficult for me to think about how to integrate technology into a classroom, but this course and this subject has helped me open my mind to the opportunities and technological resources available in a classroom.
AI utilization and humanity process.
I use AI as a supportive tool during the design process to generate ideas, structure activities, and refine language, especially when developing the project sequence, because at first I didn't know how to show the development of my idea in the video and how to carry out, but the AI helped to me to carry out this. Also, with the digital tools explanation and assignment criteria. It helped me to organize complex information and explore creative possibilities for the project and the activities. However, all final decisions were made critically by me. My human input was essential in adapting the AI suggestions to the real classroom context and to the project context, considering student diversity, learning needs, and practical limitations that the AI normally didn't recognize.